Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Latte on the Cloud Cost, the podcast that guides you through the complex world of cloud cost optimization. I'm your host, Praneet Chandra, and every 2 weeks, we deep dive into strategies, tools, and best practices that helps FinOps professionals, engineering leaders, and DevOps team navigate the financial aspects of cloud computing. In today's episode, our very special guest, who is a highly respected figure in FinOps community with extensive experience teaching FinOps courses and contributing to FinOps framework, right? So not just another practitioner, somebody I call him OG of FinOps. Please welcome Ben Mora, FinOps lead at GitLab. Welcome, Ben.
Wow, what
Great
an
to have you.
introduction. Thanks, Praneet. What an introduction. I've been doing this a little bit now.
Yeah, I think I've got some more introduction, right? So with deep expertise in enterprise engineering and infrastructure value management and organizational strategy, so there's a lot to uncover today. Ben excels at driving FinOps transformation through outcome-focused process. So today we'll get away from theory. We'll talk more practical, how it actually works, and known for fostering cross-collaboration. So if you have not seen his talks, if you have not read his LinkedIn, I think you're missing out on a massive amount of knowledge that Ben can impart to all of us. So once again, welcome, Ben. Great to have you on the show. Finally, we do this, right? So this is great.
Yeah. Took a little bit. I was busy for a while, just changed roles. So been in my new role now just under 2 months at GitLab, leading the FinOps transformation here. And it's been amazing. It's been very busy. So it's great to be able to carve out the time to have a chat with you about this stuff.
This is great. And I will be very honest, right? Out of all the people I had, like, you are the most coolest background ever, right? I think this offbeats, right? That FinOps people are very serious, right? This also brings in a lot of taste as well. That is great. Thank you.
Yeah, I probably have more guitars behind me than most FinOps practitioners on the calls, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good, great achievement. Another thing to add, right? Probably I'll endorse your LinkedIn for that. Yeah.
Yeah. No public music just yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That soon probably we'll have the first ever FinOps album going live, right?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, featuring Ben. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Cool. Ben, I've been avid fan. I've been a reader of everything that you write, right? And I've seen like you have often written about like FinOps being misunderstood, right? And often too deep buried in the organization. Like, I agree, FinOps being misunderstood, but why and how? And can you actually shed the light? I want to understand your point of view. Why do you think it's often buried? How do we dig it out of grave, right? It's an important question, right? How do we go about it, right?
Yeah. So like, when I talk about it being misunderstood, and it often is, people focus on the symptom. They focus on the outcome of the situation that they put themselves into through whatever they've done, right? So they're like, well, the cloud bill's too high is what you hear most often, or what the vendors will what the service providers will say is, we will reduce your cloud spend. Okay, but actually, do you know what? That's not what it's for. A business is 3 things. It's money in, money out, and what's left over. And if we only focus on the money out and we have no context against why that money is going out the door, right? Actually, reducing spend might hurt the business. You might want to invest more to grow more revenue if you're doing it intelligently. The question comes down to, what are we paying for and what are we getting for it, right? So in terms of misunderstanding, there's a lot of focus on reducing usage and on reducing spend and all this kind of thing, which is great, right? Except for the fact that really we shouldn't be reducing usage. We should be reducing waste and increasing value-linked investment into our cloud infrastructure. Because if we can confidently point to $1 and say, I know what I got for that, and it did my business a good thing. Great. Okay, let's do that again. Let's do more of that, right? Yeah. So when I say that it's misunderstood, it is often quite sort of one level deep conversations about, like, it's just the first piece, right? Reduce the spend, reduce the cost, right? Bring the bill down, whatever. Okay, great. No, maximize your return. Increase your benefits from your investment. Clarify where the money is going and why. And get everybody around the context of what the business direction is, why we're doing what we're doing in cloud, and how we're going to get better at that, right? So that's the real direction. It's not, page 1 of the FinOps book, it's not about saving money, it's about making money. And there's like lots of people don't seem to have read that first page and really taken it to heart.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it just takes me back. I was talking to a CTO the other day, and I was like, he was like, same usual rhetoric, right? Hey, there's too much of cloud costs. I don't know why. And I was like, have you measured? What are you actually measuring against, right? Why do you have so much of cloud costs? And I'm like, no, we just don't measure. It's just going against our budget. And I'm like, potentially there's budget problems, right? So your point on ROI is so valid, right? If we don't think about ROI, I don't think so. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, right. Money in, money out, what's left over. It's the oldest business equation since there was ever business, right? And for some reason, it doesn't seem to be translating a lot into these sorts of conversations. And all of the marketing material that I see from, like, or most of the marketing material I see from FinOps providers and service providers and consultancies and tooling and all this other stuff, almost all of it seems to focus around this whole, we'll save you money, right? I don't want someone to come and tell me they're going to save me money. I want someone to tell me that they're going to make me money, right? Yes. Because I mean, ultimately, one of the things I usually say is like, I'll make your cloud bill zero for you. You won't like it, but I'll make you spend zero for it. Just go delete everything if that's all you care about, right?
Correct.
But no, we want to make money from our cloud, so let's figure that out and let's look at what are we making and how do we make more with what we're spending. Right.
Agreed. Totally agree. So how do we elevate FinOps, right? Like that's my next question, right? How do you elevate?
Yeah.
Like we have been treating it as a cost cutting function for a very long time, right? If we have to really transform, or I would like to call it how we have to re-message it, right? Or positioning it, right? From cost cutting function to an elevated function, what would that look like, right? Like in your head?
Strategy, pure and simple. FinOps should be a forward-looking, strategic level directive. It should be a strategic program that is supported holistically across the organization as an understanding. If your business is cloud spend heavy, or if your mode of delivery through your product that you sell as an organization centers around your ability to leverage cloud, right? Cloud is your key strategic delivery point. Why don't you have a key strategic optimization program, not a project or like a janitor program where you go and clean up the mess after your engineering teams have gone and done what they do, right? Which is lots of FinOps teams. It needs to be baked in from the start, right? I talk a lot about FinOps having a very, very high resolution rear view mirror, and it does. We look at the cloud bill. We look at, we try to find where we've already gone wrong, where we've already made waste, so we can maybe reduce the future potential of that repeating. But if we have a strategic understanding at an organizational level of okay, well, how do we actually position ourselves so that we don't really need to go back and clean up the mess and burn cycles, going and resizing and all this other stuff, right? Why don't we look at things and go, right, well, okay, we need to do this. How can we architect this in a way that it is maximizing the elasticity capabilities of cloud so that we never need to go back and clean things up? And then the bill becomes a confirmation of your expectations. It becomes easier to forecast because you go, right, okay, well, I know what the future is going to look like because I've designed it. And now I look at the bill and it says, yes, that's exactly what I designed properly. And if it doesn't say that, my design process is at fault and I need to figure out how I better model my solutions for the future so that when I next look at the bill, it tells me what I expect to see.
Yeah. So if
I'm strategic direction.
Yeah. So if I'm correct to say we should understand what is the cost per business metric.
I mean, metrics are overused in many cases and underused in others. There's a maxim that was written by Charles Goodhart's law. He says that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Right? Are you familiar with that one? Yeah. So basically with that, a lot of people measure things that aren't kind of directly related to business outcome. They'll measure things like, on the face of it, right? Targeting waste might sound like a really good idea. Great. Yeah, let's target waste removal every month. We want to make sure that every team produces about 20% of waste removal, whatever. Yeah. Except what happens when you've actually got an engineering team who aren't producing any waste? Well, then they have to create the waste so that they can remove it so that their metrics look good, right? So it's an anti-pattern. So thinking about the kinds of behaviors that your metrics and your targets, which should be different things, going to promote is important, right?
we follow it, I think we can take it off from being a janitor-like function, as you just said, right, to more of a strategic function. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? So I think what you are talking about is disassociating metric with targets. Metric and targets are two different things. Yes, you understand that, but how do you plan or strategize better? Like before the code hits the production, you actually understand what you're actually getting on. So great. Yeah. So that brings me to another question, right? And this is something I think it came from our chat last time, right? At GitLab, you work with a distributed workforce, right? And I've been a big fan of GitLab handbooks. And last time when we were talking, you also talked about, hey, instead of shifting FinOps left, we should shift FinOps up, right? So I want to merge both of the construct, right? How do you think FinOps scale beyond central teams, right? How do I get it to be a scaling function altogether?
Yeah. So you need a so what, right? You need a so what. Most teams beyond the finance team, I mean, let's be honest, most teams don't really care all that much about cost, right? Cool. They don't. Unless you actually work in finance. If you're an engineering team, you care about engineering. You care about your solution, its elegance, its security, its capability, its capacity to operate and deliver services, right? Probably you either don't have enough of an insight into the cost, or it's just not a thing that you're worried about because you've got 10,000 other things to focus on, right? So finding out the so what is important. One of the most important emotive drivers for engaging people is actually not cost. It's carbon. It's CO2e. It's power consumption. It's sustainability data, right? So if we parallelize that, which by the way, sustainability is one of the capabilities within the FinOps framework as well. So it's not an add-on. It's there. It's part of the structure, right? It's within optimize usage and cost. So if we provide the sustainability data insights, that has provably delivered increased amounts of engagement across the organization, where people want to do more optimization. They want to understand how to deliver more with less, or to deliver things in a more elegant and efficient way, because they care about the planet that we walk around on, right? Very useful way of doing that. The other thing as well is incentivization. I mean, it sounds daft, but like, if you could draw a clear, simple line between an engineering team achieving a significant reduced wastage level or a significant provable bit ROI sort of coverage, why not reward them?
Yeah. Oh, right? that's a great way of, like, I think, moving FinOps from being a program management like function. Like I have got a very big thing, right? Like a lot of people treat FinOps as a program management function. Oh, central team keeps on telling teams to do things, and whenever teams find time, they do it. And I think that's totally a bad behavior. Probably you should not have it, right? It has to be embedded deep within the team. And I think your points around thinking about more green, right? Thinking about carbon reduction, right? Carbon cost reduction, carbon credits, or even incentivizing when you sit on your ROI actually gets a great motivator. So do you have any context-specific framework that you have used in past? Like, I think a lot of us would like to learn that. Like, have you used any framework similar to that to create this kind of incentive function?
So you really need to be quite vocal about celebrating success, right? I mean, ultimately, people like recognition and they like acknowledgement. Yeah. And it maybe doesn't even need to be financial, but they like to be recognized and seen as successful and heroes in the organization, right? So whenever you do have a team that delivers on a bunch of FinOps work that they're trying to do, that maybe they're improving their visibility, they're getting their allocation better, they are improving their elasticity or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Recognize it publicly, right? Within the organization or even beyond it if you want to, but like hold that team up and celebrate them, because then others will see that. Others will follow that example. So it's a cultural thing where you sort of say, well, look, such and such from this team has absolutely smashed it and has delivered these amazing results, and this is great. They're a hero, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The other thing you do is gamifying and league tabling these things, not the bottom list. Can't stress that enough. Nobody wants to see a list of people who are the worst performers. It's not a good thing to do. It's culturally damaging. Yeah. I've seen it being created in the past. It doesn't help. But when you've got a list of like the top 5 or the top 3 teams or people or whatever, say this person's absolutely smashing it, they're at the top of the list and their name's in lights, that kind of thing. That's a great way to gain engagement. And then also doing things like fin hacks and gamify game days and things like that. So Steph Gooch from AWS used to do an amazing game day thing with FinOps. I don't know if he still does, but the AWS fin hacks events are great.
Yeah.
Brian McCumber's written a book about gamifying FinOps as well. There's a good piece to have a look at. There's lots of different ways. I mean, I know that there's other people in the UK and elsewhere who are building ways to gamify this solution, and those have proven to be really successful, and they start momentum going, right? What you, as a FinOps lead or as a FinOps sort of transformation person coming into an organization, it's like getting a rock rolling, right?
Correct.
First of all, you're going to give it a really hard push, and it needs a lot of energy and effort. But once it's going, and it's really going, its momentum will carry it forward.
Correct.
Right? Because as soon as people realize the benefit they would derive from doing it,
yeah,
it grows itself.
Yeah, that's a great approach. I think I have never thought from that perspective, right? How can I create a game days or gamification as such? Because generally you're like, hey, please report these metrics at the end of the sprint. How have you actually
Nobody
performed?
wants to hear that.
And honestly, people don't want to report their own engineering metrics, right? They're least interested in cloud metrics, right, altogether. So I think this is a great way, right? How do we celebrate this entire movement within the company? And that brings me to another part. Sorry, I have like so many thoughts, right, while you're telling me, right?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So when we think about now I would come to a definition saying that people make FinOps, right? And I think you also say that like people make FinOps. So imagine I start gamifying, right? But this is a behavioral change. Let's take example. I'm trying to champion FinOps at my company. I do not have any proper FinOps title as such, but I want to champion it. So I'll create a game days, right? Oh yeah, everybody's participating. Everybody likes that. Coming together, hacking some stuff, trying to make sure that, okay, we are in a good place. But how do we create that lasting behavioral change, right? Because many a times this is something that I have faced personally. Yes, people are all game up, right? Yeah, let's do this. But then again, it just fizzles out, right? After 2 weeks or 3 weeks when they go back to their regular routine work. So what is that trick for having this permanent behavior change? That's what I would call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll go back to my analogy about rolling a rock, right?
Yeah.
To get the rock moving is a lot of effort. You got to really put your shoulder in and give it a good drive. Once it's rolling, you push it with your hand and it keeps going, right?
Yeah.
It's that easy. If it stops rolling, you've got to put your shoulder into it again, all right?
Yeah.
And it's got to take a lot of effort. So FinOps is not a one and done thing, okay?
Yeah.
Any kind of directed cultural focus requires purposeful and continual engagement. Yeah. And that doesn't matter whether it's a FinOps cultural change, whether it's transparency and openness, whether it's DIB, whatever, right? It doesn't matter what that cultural change that you're trying to embody in an organization is. It doesn't do itself, right? Yeah. You do need to keep it rolling. I mean, and if you've got it moving, if you've got the momentum there already, then keeping it going, there's a lot less effort than stopping, falling asleep, realizing it's stopped, and then having to do the big push all over again, right? Yeah. So think of it that way, right? You're rolling a rock, and basically you've got to keep giving it a nudge and keep moving it forward every day. It's a continual thing that you have to keep driving, or it will stop. Right? I mean, cloud providers are continually releasing new SKUs all the time, right? I think it was something like nearly 9,000 SKUs in the quarter from March to June across GCP, AWS, and Azure. That's a normal quarter.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's an incredible amount of new services, changed models, all this stuff. If you don't keep up with that alongside everything else, right? So a great architecture now might not be a great architecture in 18 months because actually what you've built yourself with your own two hands in cloud, there might be a service that just gives you that now that you could just leverage, which reduces your cost of maintenance and means you can just focus more on driving revenue, right? So understanding that not only is your culture needing to continually be fed, but also your understanding of what you're doing in cloud also requires continual maintenance and focus, right? Which is driven by the culture of continually understanding how we can be better, right?
Totally
so that's kind of
Yeah. In fact, I was working with my teams to build a new data report, and we realized that, hey, there has been more than 190 new different instance types and families, everything combined just on the compute service in AWS. I'm like, this is impossible for any team to really keep on improving their architecture, right? Unless they're really cautious about it, right? So I think, yeah, that's a great point, right? With 1,000+ these, how are you actually managing? And then if you don't have a strategy, I'm pretty sure you are going to lose a lot of money any given day, right?
Yeah.
And this is something I want to ask, right? Because I get this question from a lot of engineering leaders whenever I start telling them like, hey, how you should think about embedding this strategic planning, embedding thinking about like how your engineers do that. They generally tells me, hey, most of our engineers come with a single mindset, write better code, right? Now we tell them, hey, you should also use better infrastructure, right? Improvement on infrastructure. But somehow it doesn't sail very well with them. So how do you think, right? What should be that way of engineering carrot apart from incentivizing, apart from thinking about your architecture lot before, your cloud architecture lot before,
Yeah.
and think more on around like, hey, I need to adopt this FinOps thinking, right? How do I create a definition of done, right, with FinOps as such, right? Do you think there's a space for it, first of all?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to pick up on something you said. So write better code, build better infrastructure. Are they not both exactly the same thing in cloud? Because if you're doing infrastructure as code, Terraform, CloudFormation, whatever, then yeah, write better code is build better infrastructure, right? It's just understanding what your code is doing and the consequences of it, right? That's the one thing. The other thing is, in terms of like understanding what they're optimizing for, we already get engineers to care about security.
Yeah.
They care about that now. Most of them do, right? They should do. They definitely care about availability because they don't want to be disturbed if things break.
Yeah.
Right? So they're going to make sure there's no single point of failure and that there's all resilient architecture. They care about capacity, right? For the same reasons that they care about availability.
Yeah.
Right? So these are already things that kind of sit alongside value efficiency. The only difference is they don't have the clear insights and they don't have the clear accountability and ownership for these things, right? I mean, we've talked a bit about so what and why did they care, but okay, if they do care, but we don't enable them, and we don't support them with the right visibility, the right transparency and understanding of the consequences of their previous choices and the potential future choices, right? If we don't enable them with those visibilities, then it doesn't matter how much they care because they can't see, right? If we don't support these people with the power, with the autonomy to make the right choices, right? And abstract away the implementation sort of specificity and let the engineering teams who have the best context understand what the right solution is based upon their awareness of value and their ownership of it, right? So yes, we need to get the care, but we also need to support them in actually, once they do care, how they can do it, because there's nothing worse than having somebody who cares but is powerless.
Exactly. So if I have to really summarize it, I need to give my engineering visibility. I need to give them autonomy in order to make better and right decisions, right? That's how I would like to sum it up, right? So all the engineering leaders,
they're going to care, they're going to have the power, and they're going to have the eyesight.
Yeah. So engineering leader, that's your cue. Visibility and autonomy. Are you doing it? If you're doing it. If you're not doing it, ping Ben. Ben can definitely help us out with that.
I'm not a consultant anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, probably some pro bono stuff, Ben. Like, I think you can write about it. Probably you should not answer.
I'm always happy to chat to people.
Yeah. Great. Let me shift some gears, right, and get to the hottest topic of these days, generative AI. I finally say, AI has arrived. I started working on it like 2015 sometime, right, when I was at Gainsight, right? I started working at that point of time. And now I finally see, finally AI has arrived, right? And this is something that I am a little bit bored, right? AI for FinOps, FinOps for AI. I see it everywhere.
It's been going a while now.
Yeah. I do not see any concrete description on it, but like loosely vague use term at this point of time, right? So one question that I have is, we have been traditionally doing FinOps very well for regular compute, regular storage and everything. Now we are at a place where more and more models are coming, right? Every second day, some person comes on a stage and says that, oh, my new model is 10x better than everybody else's old model. Grok is trying to do this. DeepSeek is reducing the cost and everything. So with so many models and everything coming into picture, what should be our new behavior, right? Because this is all experimental territory. It's not like a regular computer storage territory. What should be our strategy as FinOps practitioners to think about it, right? What should be that mental model we should build out at this point of time?
Yeah. So like, it's really new and it's really confusing, but it's also really not, because we have to ask the same questions that we've always asked, which is, I'm paying X, I got Y, how'd I do, right?
Yeah.
Now, quantifying that is hard, okay? I pay X per query or per token use for this model,
Yeah.
and Y per query per token use on this model.
So it's
But this model gives me better answers, or I see less repeated queries from this model, or whatever. So looking at, like, are you using the right model that gives the least amount of repeat queries, the best amount of return, the fastest return, the lowest cost per query, whatever, right? And that's going to vary depending upon what your use case is, whether you're using the right model for that use case, whether there's a newer model that's better for that use case, whatever, right? But it comes down to the question of, I'm paying this. This is what I got for it. How did I do? That's a high level thing. And then below that, it's okay, well, so how does that usage that I got break down, right? Where did it go? How do I attribute that spend? Because the other problem is you can't tag AI spending like you could with a VM
exactly
or storage, right? You can't put labels on it easily. It's difficult to do natively, right? You can enrich it through. So if you know, for example, which of your cloud's components fired off that AWI query, you can back attribute that and figure out where that went, and you can start building your own logic. But natively, the providers don't give you the capacity to do that right now. All you get is number of tokens used and which model,
exactly,
right? And when, and how long, right?
And so especially
you need to sort of.
One thing to add, sorry, I'm breaking you in between, but one thing to add is, especially when right now all of my projects on AI world is really experiments, nothing is actually hitting production with what I'm seeing. Yes, a lot of experiments, a lot of grand POCs, as I like to call it, all the AI agents. How do you think we should act? Like, should we be reactive? Should we be proactive? Like, hey, have this mental model work like this? Or like, okay, let's wait and watch and then play our part, right? Sorry, I had to cut you in between because this is something just came to my mind.
Yeah. I think one of the challenges that you've got is that there's a bit of a lack of straight face test, right? Usually with any R&D proposal, with any sort of like a blue sky or whatever, green fields, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I want to go with this shiny new technology that I don't yet fully understand. I want to go and spend a load of money to understand it and see what business value you can derive from it, right? Okay, great. So up until AI, those sorts of proposals receive quite a lot of scrutiny most of the time. Right. But it seems like AI seems to be now like this magic term that you can use in a proposal that automatically gets it approved. Right? It doesn't matter how bizarre the proposal is or how completely distant from business value that proposal is. Yeah. People are just going to use it because they don't know what they can do with it yet. So they want to go play with it and spend 50 grand of the company's money or more, a lot more, finding out what they can do with it. Right? So I think a lot more scrutiny is probably needed in looking at what a sensible use case actually is and vetting that out all the way through to like, what is the business outcome in measurable terms that we can derive from this outcome? Okay. And also, how likely are we really to achieve that business outcome? Because the other problem is that at the moment, yes, it's quite advanced. Yes, it seems quite capable. It seems quite anthropomorphic in terms of the way that it talks to people, right? But ultimately, it still hallucinates. Even models that aren't supposed to can do, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at it in terms of like, what's the realistic expectation of business model? Now, some implementations are super tight and super targeted and work really, really well. I'm not bashing it and saying nobody should use it. It's all daft and nonsense. There are implementations of LLM that do amazing things. Unquestionable, right?
Yeah.
My calendar, I manage my calendar using an LLM. It's great, right? It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But, and it does a really good job, and it doesn't hallucinate. It just does what I need it to do. There's some really good code assistant things with that LLM. GitLab's Duo is actually pretty awesome. I am a terrible developer.
Yeah.
I'm an absolutely terrible programmer, and I was able to use it to do something interesting. So, if it can help somebody like me, it's pretty good. But in terms of like being able to do specific use cases, there are some really powerful cases out there for it. But there's also some terrible ones, right? And I would say that the ratio of terrible to good is probably about 100 to 1, possibly worse.
Totally true. Totally true. Like, you would believe 2 weeks back, I was hosting a meetup in Hyderabad, India. And one of the person who actually works on a lot of racks and everything, he was like, hey, all of these models sounds really amazing. But they're just smart toddlers. They can't even figure out 8 minus 8.8 minus 8.11. And they will all give wrong answers at all the time. Number of R's in a strawberry. And then you feel like...
I was thinking that one.
And then I was like, hey, we are backing the entire future on the POCs that we really don't know the value about. And then we are also, as you said, hey, put the word AI into it and it is approved, right? Yeah. So I think at this point, our job is to be a lot more sincere towards this form factor to think about like, hey, how do we drive the value, right? And if there's no value, obviously... great experiments, but thank you. It's not really going to sail.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
One of the best ways, like one of the best descriptions I give of AI, right, which is, it's slightly petulant, but I think it's funny. Do you remember those old mobile phones where you would like, rather than an iPhone, you'd have a physical keyboard, you type the text message in, and it would give you a predictive text to get 3 choices of which word you want to put next in your message, right? Based upon what you've written. AI is basically that.
Yeah.
It's a predictive text model, right? From a 1990s mobile phone, just dialed up lots.
Yeah, exactly. I call it a smart toddler. It just has learned the entire Oxford dictionary somehow and knows how to form the words and sentences. But right, you have to give it all the context, all the knowledge, how to behave, right? And that's very important. Thank you. This was enlightening. This is what I wanted to hear.
The FinOps and AI thing. Yeah. FinOps and AI. So you can use AI to do FinOps very effectively.
Yeah.
There are some things it's very good at, right? Pattern analysis, pattern matching and analysis, trend analysis, early warning, these sorts of things. Fabulous. Really, really good. There are some organizations out there right now using AI with some impressive results on FinOps solutions and insights and data. And doing the other way around, applying the FinOps principles to AI is also, there's loads of resources out there now on the Foundation website that are really useful. There's a bunch of really good talks about it at FinOps X this year in San Diego. It's all on YouTube. There's some great stuff about like how to think about approaching these challenges and problems.
Yeah.
And we're rapidly getting better at this thing. It is hard and it should not be thought of or give it all, treated lightly. It's difficult to do this part of FinOps, but we've got a lot of very smart people involved in solving this problem.
Yeah, definitely. Like one thing I've been working internally with one of our engineers who's actually who came to me and like, hey, I wanted to do some LM research with you on this cost. And we built out a brilliant commitment manager, right? And it tells me like how my commitments, how bad I'm doing commitment this year versus last year, right? And there were multiple factors of it, right? Same, a lot of POCs came in and everything. And I was like, hey, I could have just done better commitments this year. Right, this wasn't like very hidden. I could have just done a better savings plan, better convertible RIs, and that's important, right? Now, that is what actually I think the power of FinOps for AI will do for us, right? And I'm waiting for it, right? Let's go and build it out, but build it with more of sense that how do you empower me as compared to another shiny reporting tool. I definitely don't want that. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you help me do what I do?
That's
the question, right?
Yeah. Great. I've got one question. Right. And this is my favorite one, right? Most of the organizations I talk to, most of the CTOs I talk to, DevOps, FinOps people, they're all still sitting and assessing their last month's bill. Right. Great way to look at a report card, right? That's how I see. But they make their decisions looking at their last month's bill, right? They're still not moving to that real time value. And I think it also comes from AI, like, can AI do that for you, right? How do we shape FinOps from being this reactive function, this tactical function to more strategic, right? How do I move? How do I shift gears, right? Hey, stop looking at your bills, start thinking more, planning more. And I think you have covered a lot of it, like in terms of planning, but that is a reality. That's how people around us are still looking at it. So what is that shift we should bring in? Yeah.
Again, it comes back to the ownership thing, right?
Yeah.
And it comes back to understanding how you build a picture. Forecasting cloud is hard. It's very hard, right? I came from a data center background. I was a data center engineer for a number of years for one of the large IT companies. And at that point, forecasting was dead easy, right? Yeah. I spent money once a month on it as a run rate, right? Yeah. And then I also had a quarterly purchase cycle and a monthly run rate, right? It was really easy to forecast that. Forecasting cloud, however, your spend is not under your control because your customers are going to dictate what your demand is, and your demand should dictate what your spend is.
Yeah.
Right? So if you've got an elastic environment that reacts positively and clearly to your customer demand, then your customer demand chooses what you spend, right?
Yeah.
To a degree. If it doesn't choose what you spend, you're leaving money on the table and you're wasting money, right?
Absolutely.
So you can either forecast and be in control of your spend and waste money, or you can put your spend at the mercy of your customers' demand levels, and that becomes challenging, right? So it's less about like, what is my next 12 months going to look like? And more about like, what is my cost per delivery rate right now, right? Am I able to make 3x, 4x, whatever revenue for each transaction that I process with my customers, or some form of business metric value that I can use to say I'm delivering more value than I'm spending, and having that as a model going forward and using that to in conjunction with your projections about your customer growth, right? Yeah. So what does your order book look like? What does your customer usage of your platform profile look like? You know, are you about to bring out a new service that's going to be absolutely market killing, and you're going to wind up delivering a new solution that no one else has? Everybody's going to flock to you like droves. Yep. Or is your competitor just released something new, and suddenly people think that the shiny thing over there is better than yours, and they're going, right? What does the market say? What are your product plans? What's your customer usage look like, right? All of these factors are critical when you start having an elastic sort of demand-based spend model, yeah?
Yeah.
Which is great because it means we only spend money when we're earning money. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, there's other business costs, people, right? Equipment, everything else. Those are fixed costs. But in terms of our delivery to our customers through our infrastructure, if we can create that direct relationship, that means that we don't leave money on the table. Forecasting that is hard, but not impossible. Correct. I've seen businesses, I mean, my previous sort of life as a consultant up until a couple of months ago, I spoke to some businesses that were able to forecast out 6 months out in the future with an accuracy of less than 0.5%.
Oh, wow.
On cloud. I know, right? Like
that's impressive.
Business,
right?
Any business that can forecast anything to within 0.5% consistently, right? As well, consistently, year over year, between 1% and 0.5% accuracy budget versus actual, it's possible. It's very hard, but it's possible. You need some seriously strong chops from your finance team. You need great integration with your organization. You need good context. You need clear understanding of your roadmap and the impacts of that, all this stuff. But it is possible to do. It's just very difficult.
Yeah. I think you remind me of a very interesting thing. I was talking to a large investment banking firm. The head of FinOps over there said that I think we are not able to get out of CapEx hangover. And that is what is causing the problem. We are so much thinking about data center CapEx hangover that we cannot think like cloud cost is OpEx. So we always want to run behind it and try to figure out. And he was telling his journey, right? It took him entire 1 year to explain people that, hey, your cloud cost is not CapEx anymore. It's OpEx. So think about OpEx perspective. And he said, when everybody thought that, it actually changed everything for me. Now I can function better. So I think, totally agree, right? Probably being on data center was easy.
I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
I'm stealing that phrase, CapEx hangover. I'm borrowing that because it's a great way to put it, because you're right. People do. They think about it, like I just said it, right? I've been in the data center before, and they think about it in terms of like, what is our 12 months IT spend?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, right? What's our 12 months worth of customer demand look like? Can you tell me that? And if not, then how are we going to tell you what the cloud spend is going to be?
Exactly. And I think that's what we all need to start doing. I think it will solve the problem. Great.
Yeah.
So all the serious part now gets over, Ben. We now go to the fun part,
That was
right?
serious?
A lot of people have told me like, hey, the conversations have been very intense and I like it. I was like, no, I didn't want it to be intense. I want it to be fun for everyone. So I thought I will introduce a special fun section, right? And what I'm going to ask you, the first part is cloud confession, right? You have to confess a cloud sin that you have committed or you have seen somebody doing it. And what was that?
Okay.
It has to be really short and crisp, right? What is that?
Okay. Here's one for you. CloudWatch costs.
Yeah.
Right. So at an organization that I was involved with in the past, CloudWatch costs were normally around $5,000 a month, right? About $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
This is in a large organization, right? With multiple $1 million cloud spend. So $5,000 a month across many, many hundreds of engineers. Actually not that bad, right?
Yep.
That's fine. Until, of course, an engineer decided that they were going to try to use CloudWatch to diagnose an infrastructure sort of architectural problem that they had with their environment, right? Which is what it's kind of for. So they went to CloudWatch and they dialed the monitoring lab dialed it up to 11, right?
Yeah.
Solved their problem. And then left it on for 3 weeks. And it cost $245,000 in 3 weeks.
Did that engineer save his job?
They kept their job. They kept their job. Yeah. But like, that was like whoops, I'm sorry I left it turned on, right? It was like, go on holiday, leave the oven on. That's a problem, right? That's basically, that happens a lot, right? Yeah. That sort of thing happens a lot. I saw another one where somebody had turned on 3 NVIDIA H100 based VMs in AWS.
Oh, God.
Right? Do you know how much those cost? That's
No.
$2,400 a day each.
I have a similar story. Yeah,
they turned on 3 and then they left them on for a week.
Oh, God.
And did nothing with them.
I had one of the engineers actually turned up SageMaker GPU and left it on for over the weekend because he wanted to train his image recognition model. And when he came back on Monday, I told him first thing, right? Hey, if I could not get them back as credit, right? I'm taking it back from you. Because you literally killed my entire R&D budget for a month, right? So that's the kind of horror. I agree. Like, these horrors are dangerous. Great. My next section is rapid fire, right? What I will do is I'll ask you 5 rapid fire questions and you have to answer with one word or a short phrase. RI or RI or SP?
Both.
Why?
Use cases, depending on what you need to do.
Great. One word for multi-cloud.
Potentially good. 2 words, sorry. Potentially good.
Yeah. Our favorite one, tagging, salvation or chaos?
Again, both. Tagging is powerful if used properly, but it could potentially be moderately frustrating. Ask Joe Daly from the FinOps Foundation about tagging.
Yeah. Most overrated FinOps buzzword.
Oh, right sizing.
Amazing. FinOps tooling, build versus buy.
Bit of both, mostly buy.
Great.
Don't build something if you're not going to make any money from it. Right? If you're building something, make sure there's something you sell.
Great. Finish the sentence. Cloud bills are getting
more complex.
Great. Oh, wow. You get 10 out of 10 marks. Great job, Ben. Right. But thank you. Thanks a ton for coming on to the show. It was long due, and thanks to you. And we wish you all the best. So that was, folks, Ben, right over here, spilling all the secrets why he's called OG of FinOps, right? And I'm not kidding, right? And thank you, Ben, once again for it was lovely having you here. And yeah,
it's a pleasure.
For all of our guests, yeah, if you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe. I'm going to do the regular rhetoric, right? And Ben's link is right there in LinkedIn. You can always ping him for chat. I've pinged him several times, right, while doing my own startup. He has always been helpful and is a great chap to talk with. Thank you, Ben, once again. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Ladder of Cloud Costs. We meet back again in 2 weeks. Thank you.